Zoho Projects is a powerful project management platform that makes it easy to plan projects, track tasks, and manage work all in one place. I'm Drew Brockbank, owner of Brockbank Consulting, an elite Zoho partner, and I've implemented Zoho for over 141 organizations. And in this beginner's tutorial, I will show you exactly how to get started with Zoho Projects and use it according to best practices. To get started with Zoho Projects for free, you can head over to zoho.com/projects. You can click on this sign up now button. You can fill out this form, no credit card required. Then you can get started with Zoho Projects. Now keep in mind that Zoho is a software company that offers multiple products. So you can see here as I scroll through, there's different applications to support different situations and areas of any organization. The reason I bring this up is you may need help with software in another part of your business. And if that's the case, Zoho probably has another app to support you. But with that, we're going to stay focused on Zoho Projects for today's video. Fill out this form and then you can get started. Alternatively, you can also go into the link in the description below and use my link to get Zoho Projects for free. No credit card required. If you would like to support the channel, you can fill out this form, hit sign up. Either way, once you sign up, you will be taken to the Zoho Projects interface. Let's start with the home page here. So the home page is where you can go to get an idea of what's going on inside of Zoho Projects at a glance. So you can see the open tasks, closed tasks, open issues, my tasks, lots of different sections here that give you an idea of what's happening inside of Zoho Projects within one view. So you can see your personal or the portfolio of different tasks and projects that you're managing or working on, all from the homepage. You can also customize this generally, so you can decide what widgets are going to show up and what order they are in, but it's not extremely customizable. You're really just going to choose what shows up and in what order. From here, you've got reports. So once you have work that you're managing inside of Zoho Projects, you have different out-of-box reports that are created for you. You have the workload report, plan versus actual project reports, task reports, issue reports, time log reports, and you can even use Zoho Analytics for more advanced reporting needs. Zoho Analytics is a full-on business intelligence tool, which means you can bring the raw data in from any application that has an API or an out-of-box data connector, and you can string the data together in the way that you want to produce the reports that you need inside of any Zoho application that you're using. So Zoho Analytics also works with non-Zoho apps as well. That's what's helpful. So if you don't have a report here that meets your reporting needs, feel free to use Zoho Analytics as well. Then you've got projects. So this is where rubber hits the road. This is where you are actually managing a group of work. Why do I say group of work? Well, Zoho Projects has lots of layers to it. You have the project group layer, then projects. Think of it like a Russian nesting doll. Project groups, projects, milestones, task lists, tasks, subtasks. You can go very far down the rabbit hole. But here's the thing, you don't need to use all those objects, is what we refer to, or record types inside of Zoho Projects. Really, to get started, you need to use two. There's the projects, and then within a project, we'll hit Access Project here, the tasks, okay? You can just start with those two levels, and then you can grow into a task list, a milestone, subtask, project group over time. The reason that there are that many levels to this is when you're the more advanced projects or groups of work that you're managing, the more you got to group them up because it becomes confusing. And so at first, for most people, you can get away with using projects and tasks in the beginning, and then you can grow into using some of the other record types / objects over time to keep things more organized. So with that, you can start from the ground up, create a project. I'm going to show you how to create a new project right here in the new project from the new project button. So you can start from scratch, or there's templates now, predefined project templates for you. So you can kind of get an understanding of what these look like, marketing and sales, manufacturing, construction. It's actually really nice to have these pre-built so you don't have to start from scratch. You can start from a template. So I'm going to start from scratch just to show you how this works from the ground up. We're going to do a Zoho implementation, Zoho CRM implementation here. And the example that I'm going to use for this video may not fit your use case or your situation perfectly, that's okay. You can use this example to give yourself inspiration on how to use Zoho projects for yourself. And you can translate what I'm doing to your own efforts so that you can evaluate if Zoho projects make sense for you to use. A lot of the feedback I get is, Drew, Zoho projects is really confusing off the bat. I'm like, if you just stay focused on projects and tasks at first, it's really not that complicated. So you can put a start date here, get started, and you can make it a strict project. Some people don't know what that is. Task issues, milestones cannot start or end outside the scheduled dates for the strict project. So if you put a start date, end date here, it's just one day, and anything falls outside of that, you can block tasks from having start dates and end dates outside of these general project start date, end date. Any task within it, you can block that from happening if you make it a strict project. We're not going to do that. We don't really need to do that for this situation. Then we have task layout and then project group. Okay, so task layout, I would encourage you initially not to go crazy with task layouts. Try to use these systems from the ground up. Don't feel like you have to configure everything perfectly before you jump in. With a project, if you start with projects and tasks, as things grow, then you can start using some of the features that we'll discuss in this video. So for now, don't create multiple task layouts. You don't need to over-engineer this thing. Project groups, you probably don't need a project group to start out with. Oftentimes a project group is created per department in an organization, so you can add a new group if you need to, but we're not going to worry about that right now. Tags, the thing about tags is everyone goes to tags to add a tag to have another way to filter or organize what their work is. I'd encourage you not to do that as much as you can, because a tag can mean anything. Therefore, it starts to mean nothing over time. So people just start throwing tags willy-nilly until it becomes this Wild West where there's 500 tags. It's possible to organize things and it gets really confusing. So the alternative to that, if you're going to organize things, you can add custom fields to the project, and using fields is a structured way to store information, whereas tags is unstructured. So it's harder to report on, it's harder to organize. We're not going to go too far down the rabbit hole on that. I just want to give you a fair warning for tags. Roll up, enable this option to roll up dates from tasks, subtasks to projects in phases, work hours, time logs, and percent completion will roll up from subtasks to tasks. You can learn more about this. Don't do this initially. Try not to use the roll up, and then you can learn more about it and decide if you want to do that. Customize tabs for this project. So within the project, you have dashboard, tasks, reports. You can see finance is not enabled here, forums, pages, expense. But if I wanted to add projects and finance, I could certainly do that. Keep in mind, Zoho Projects also integrates with other Zoho apps, such as Zoho Books, right? That's the accounting platform that Zoho offers. It's very robust. So the idea here is you can integrate with the Zoho Books finance platform, and then you can see records, financial records that are related to a specific project. So if you need to manage who you're paying on the project, and you're logging timesheets, those end up invoices, things like that. You can do all of that from the project. Project access, private, public. Only project users can view and access this project, or public portal users can only view, follow, and comment, whereas project users will have complete access. So we're going to start with private. So if I add you to the project, you can see it. If you have nothing to do with the project, probably don't want you in it. That will lead us into project roles. So when you add someone to Zoho Projects, their user, you can give them admin access, which means they can just see anything, and that will supersede things like private. Okay, so keep that in mind. With that, we are inside of our Zoho CRM implementation project. So the first thing we might do here is we might say, and I am very particular about the way that I structure task names. I highly recommend that you just copy me on this. You don't have to, but I recommend it. So when I create a task, I will start with the actor or the person who's doing something. So if I know specifically who's going to do it, I would say Drew will, so it's who will what format. Drew will create a list of requirements. Okay, so a task just represents something that someone needs to do. So now that I've created that, you'll notice owner, status, some of these fields will appear, and it's made to look similar to a spreadsheet. Okay, it's made to have the flexibility, Zoho Projects, made to have the flexibility of a spreadsheet with all the benefits of using a software program, okay? A robust software platform. So with that, here's the who will what format. Drew will create a list of requirements. Then I could also put Drew will run a Moscow report on requirements. So what does this even mean? What am I talking about? Well, if I create a list of requirements that's saying, hey, we're going to do a Zoho CRM implementation, this is what we require it to do. It's just a list. It's a bulleted list of things we need it to do. So it would just be a document. Then after that, Drew will run a Moscow report on requirements. Moscow means these are the must-have requirements, the should-have requirements, the could-have requirements, the won't-have requirements, things that we don't need, okay? So basically, I'm organizing work here. I'm saying Drew will create the list of requirements. Drew will run a Moscow report on requirements. Why do I do it in this format? Well, it's important to use a consistent format. I highly suggest using this because it's universally understood. You can use this in an SOP. So if you want to create standard operating procedures, which is a whole other rabbit hole, this is also a structure that works there. So I like to use this format because it's easy to understand and it just reads like a story. Drew will do this, then Drew will do this. It just makes sense to people, okay? And I'm going to take a step back here because tasks, people are like, well, when do I use a task versus a task list versus a milestone versus a subtask? Just start with using tasks for who will what. And then as there's sub things that you need to do, you can go into a task and then go to subtasks and say, spell out exactly what to do. Then Drew will, you could put Drew will create spreadsheet or Drew will create Google Doc. And then you could put Drew will send Google Doc to people. I don't think you should get this granular though. I mean, you can do that. I'm just showing you as an example. Be a little more professional here, but I just don't think it's worth it. Like why get this granular? If you're going to do anything like this to sales department, you can add those as subtasks. But the thing I'm trying to get across to you is it's not perfectly obvious when to use each of the different objects or record types, project groups, projects, milestones, task lists, tasks, subtasks. It's not always perfectly obvious. So I'm encouraging you to stay focused with projects and tasks initially. And then as you realize you need to break things up further or organize things further, then you can grow upwards from a task to a task list to a milestone, then do a project group if you want. Or you can organize down from there with subtasks. I think subtasks 99% of the time just are honestly overkill. I'd rather just go like this and say, if there's additional things I gotta note, I can put note here. Drew will share document with ABC stakeholders. Drew will create the doc as a Word doc, whatever it might be. Okay. I recommend just doing it there unless you have some special reporting requirements that you're already aware of. I want you to be able to use the tool. And if you're too strict with the way that you imagine it, like you're kind of like a wheat in the wind. And if you're too strict, you're going to snap and you're not going to use the tool. But if you're a little more flexible, then when the wind comes and the day-to-day friction of using systems comes your way, you'll actually be able to survive it. But you don't want to be too flexible where you just flop over wherever the wind blows. Okay, so you got to find that balance. That's what I'm trying to help you find in this video. So I'm bringing all this stuff up. Okay, so be a little strict, have a format, Drew will. If you don't know exactly who's going to do it, you can put sales team will. Okay, just as specific as you can get with that. That brings us to owners, right? So you want a specific owner, someone who's owning getting this task done. Then you've got your status, which is open, in progress, in review, to be tested, on hold, delayed. You can see to be tested. A lot of this stuff's development focused. You can change all of this. Okay, this is not set in stone. So if you want to go change the status list, feel free to do that. You certainly don't have to have the out-of-box ones. And then owner, you can also change this over time, so that you're not just selecting an owner individual, you can also select a team. So just understand that you can change that. So from here, we've got the project, and then within a project, since we created one, we have our different tasks. You have a dashboard here. So we already went over the homepage dashboard, but this is a specific dashboard to this specific project that we have. Okay, so not a lot of customization features here, but again, we can customize the widgets so we can choose what shows up and in what order they show up. We want more specific reports here. We have the out-of-box reports, workload, planned, actual, task reports, issue reports, time log. One of the most popular ones here is going to be this Gantt, which just shows you the specific, for this one, the workload report, this is showing you who has what workload over a period of time, which can be helpful. Plan versus actual, what you planned on doing versus what you actually did on a per task basis. And then you have for these reports as well, task reports, issue reports, time log reports. Okay, moving over to documents. If there's documents you need to keep track of for the lifetime of the project, you can add them here. You can configure Zoho Work Drive, which is like Google Drive, but Zoho's version. It's very powerful and it's easy to use. You can configure that so that you can actually attach. You don't use Zoho project storage space, use Zoho Work Drive storage space, and you just integrate with that app. You have different phases that you can add to the project here, which is another layer of Zoho projects that you can use. And you also have and phases actually is what used to be milestones. So if you go over to phases here, it's essentially they just have renamed this this module. I'm old school. I was with Zoho project, or I was using Zoho projects when that was just named milestones. So that's the difference there. Okay, and then also just on the sidebar here, you've got your collaboration section. We're gonna finish off projects, but I just want to show you really quickly. You got collaboration. So inside the app, there's communication features. So you have your feed, which is things that have happened or changed in real time. So you can look at that feed. You can also look through your calendar to see over time the things that need to get done. Then you've got your chat feature, so you can actually have conversations inside of the application for collaboration, which is very helpful. Okay, so back to the project, I want to finish up here. We got the phases, you got timesheets, so if you need to keep record of the time you spent with certain things, you can certainly do that. And then when you're inside of a task too, so you don't just have to create time logs from this section and then find the task, you can actually be inside of the task. So if I'm working on something and I'm like, okay, sales team will do this. Okay, I'm in the sales team, I need to create the Google Doc. Go in here, and then I can go over to log hours, and this is timesheets, right? So if I log an hour here, this is a timesheet that will show up. I'm going to show you how this works. I'm going to add here. We're going to go to timesheets, and you're going to see Drew create Google Doc. Here is my 1 hour, 15-minute time log that I've added. Okay, so finances, I can enable the Zoho Invoices, Zoho Books integration so that I could, let's say I was working for a client here, doing a Zoho CRM implementation for my client. I go into finance and I could convert those timesheets into an invoice and send them if I was billing by the hour for time and materials. You can also bill the expenses. So if I bought something for the project that I can expense to my client, they need to pay for time and materials. Let's say I did a workshop with them and I bought a bunch of expo markers and a whiteboard, something like that. I could activate Zoho Expense and expense that as well. Keep track of the expenses for the project. These are different issues. This is more of a thing for development. Keep this in mind. With Zoho projects, this is waterfall type project management, not agile. So the difference there is Zoho projects helps you manage lists almost like you're in a spreadsheet. Typically with waterfall style project management, you're coming up with all the work up front and then you're just executing a giant list of work. No project ever goes according to plan, but that's kind of the founding ideology of waterfall. Then you have agile, which has been adopted mostly by developers, sometimes marketing and sales, but mostly developers, because they need a more flexible way to manage their work. So Zoho projects is more rigid. That doesn't mean it's bad. It's just a different style. Most of the time I'm like, start with Zoho projects, then you can work with agile, because agile has different methodologies within it, like Scrum and it's Scrum or Scrum. And Scrum has like a Scrum master, a Scrum board, and it can kind of get really complex. So what I'm trying to say here, Zoho projects is a little more strict, come up with all the tasks up front. But then sometimes you have things like product development. If you're developing an application, you don't know every single feature you're going to develop in the next 2 months because the product manager is making those decisions. So then they enter a queue, you put them in a sprint, you lock the sprint for a week and you go through it. And that's agile methodology. So the reason I bring that up, if you're on a development team, sometimes you want to bring up issues as they happen, and you can submit an issue here. You can create the issue, associate it to a team, assign it to somebody, and they can come up there. So you can also add issues. You don't need to use issues, but that's something that you can create there as well. Okay, so that's a project. Those are all the tabs in the project. If you want to view the project specific information, think about it like the project's an actual record itself. You can go up to this view section right here, view details, and then there's the description and some of the details for that specific project. Okay. So that's helpful as well. Then you have this quick create section. You can search for anything inside of Zoho projects from the search bar. You've got this bell if you want to see different notifications that are relevant to you. You have your timer. So if you want to add a floating timer here, you can always keep track of the time that you're spending doing different things. And then if you want to get rid of it, you can just cancel out of there. And then you can always, you don't need to have that floating timer unless you want to, but it's actually really helpful. So then you've got your settings. We're not going to go over that because this is a beginner's tutorial. We're just going to go over the front end here. We're not going to go to the back end settings. So then we've got tasks. We talked a little bit about tasks already. The idea behind tasks is that you are keeping track of the specific action items. So the things that you need to do inside the project right here. So here's the all the tasks. You can group by task lists. You can group by projects. You can group by nothing. So it's a little easier to look at, less complicated. And then you can also just look at your tasks. If you just want to see what's your open task, what's open, that just means it's not finished yet. So open means it's not been completed. Closed means it is finished. That's the difference between open and closed. You can also look at your overdue and open. That's a very helpful view as well. And all tasks. So the nice thing about this one here, my overdue and open, is you're just seeing what needs to be focused on now, because you don't want to see all the work you've ever been assigned to. You want to see the work that you need to get done that's due or that's overdue. Okay. So it's really helpful to see that as well. Then you've got your issues. Your issues, especially for development, those are things that come up you didn't necessarily plan for. You need to add an issue. And issue can be a little more flexible than that, but generally that's what an issue represents, is something that's come up. You need to address it. And it's not necessarily an action item that you planned for, which would be a task. And you've got phases, which is I mentioned as milestones. So it's, you get your project groups. That might be the projects associated with a certain department. So you might have like a sales or like product development or marketing, the different departments, finance, whatever departments usually have a project group. And the projects, which is a group, it's one way to group your work. Okay, and I have to keep that general because a project could be a website website implementation, CRM implementation. Project can be a little project, a big project. It can be a lot of different things. But within a project, you've got these phases. Okay. And these phases are also, they used to be referred to as milestones. So you can add a phase within a project. So I can take my Zoho CRM project and we can just do the discovery phase, right? Which is discovering what are we actually going to do? And then from here, we can add another phase and say, well, phase 2 is going to be in Zoho CRM implementation, would be something like the design phase. Okay, so once we discover what we're going to do, we designed, like when you're designing a system, and you're doing it right. First, you'll discover what needs to get done. You'll prioritize what needs to get done. And once you have that list, you'll design a system. So basically, it's writing out what the system is going to do before you go build it. Think about it this way. When you build a building, you don't just say, here, I got my bricks. I'm going to start building the building brick by brick. You have to start with a blueprint. You got to design what the building is going to look like first. Okay. And once you have that blueprint, then you can go build faster and better and cheaper than you would if you just made it up as you went. So we would have a design phase here, which is actually coming up with the blueprint, if you will, for the building. We can add another phase here for development. So once you have the blueprint, right now action items, you can actually develop the system. And then you can have even support, different support phase. So design, development, discovery, all those different phases there. Now, what does that help you do? We're going to go back real quick into tasks. Jump in here. So sales team will create a list of requirements. Well, what should that be inside of? Okay. What milestone or phase, should this be a part of? Well, if we refresh here and we jump inside of this task, it will let me jump in. Let me go through the project here. If we jump in here, we will be able to assign this to a specific phase. And we may have to do this now from general into they may have changed this. Here we go. So here's the related phase. So we have design. They just changed some of this stuff around. So inside of the, you'll see a task list. This is just the general task list that's automatically created. I've just started with the tasks, but we go up one level. That's a list of tasks that need to be created. You don't have to do that. You can keep it all in general. A lot of people will do that. You can start simple. And then from here, you can go over to edit. And then you can say this task list is a part of the design phase, or really this would be the discovery phase. Okay. So now that I've done that, I can group this by phases, and you can see development, design, discovery. It's just another way to break this up. Okay. So essentially what Zoho Projects is trying to do is say, hey, look, you might have 1,000 tasks for this project. You don't want to just see the 1,000 tasks without any kind of a grouping. And so if you want to group them together, you certainly can. And this is 2 ways to do it. One level being the phase, another level being the task list. Okay. And so if you know the phases in advance, you create them all in advance. If you don't know them, you can create them as you go too. So then we got timesheets here. This is the time that you actually log against the work that you're doing. You can group by date, group by user. You can see all time logs pending. You have different custom views you can use here as well. And then you have this recent project section, which allows you to just jump through the projects that you have most recently jumped inside of. It'll just keep a running queue of those right here. You have these different options: view details a new tab, copy link, add a project, email alias, move to archive, trash it, or create a template. Lots that you can do there. And then from there, if you do want to create one of your former projects into a template, you can create it as a template. You can go to project templates, create a new project template. That way you're not starting from scratch. So this is a custom project template. That way when you have to go to project template, by the way, to create the new project template, or you can go to these 3 dots and create it. Or if you go to active projects and go to new project here, you'll be able to see the project templates that you've created. So there's the custom project templates that you create, or you can go over to these predefined project templates generated by Zoho, just to give you an idea of what's possible here. So with that, that is a beginner's overview of Zoho projects. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you in the next one.